feel like you spend a huge portion of your time and energy thinking about food? Do you constantly worry about what you should eat or shouldn't eat? Do you spend time beating yourself up about what you did eat or negotiating with yourself about what you will or won't eat? Do you regularly fantasize about food, looking forward to your next treat as a way to get through the day? If so, it may feel like you are food obsessed. In this video, I'm going to break down 3 things you can do to start reprogramming this habit today and free yourself from food obsession. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time I post a new video. If you do this, you'll be getting a new video every single week with simple tools you can use to rewire your brain so that it wants to make the healthy choices consistently. Okay, back to this issue about obsessing about food. One of my favorite things to hear from people who complete my programs is, I eat to fuel my body, I enjoy the foods I love, but other than that, food no longer rules my life. I love hearing that because I know exactly how frustrating it is to feel like food is controlling you. But before we dive into the tools for reprogramming this, I want to just take a minute to shed some light on why this happens. Why, when we just want food to be a non-issue, so it doesn't control our lives, does it seem to constantly be filling our thoughts? And the harder we try to put it out of our minds, the louder it gets. Well, there are a couple of reasons for this. For the first one, we need to travel back in time a few decades. In 1985, psychologist Daniel Wegner conducted a series of studies at Trinity University in Texas on the effectiveness of thought suppression. He asked undergraduates participating in the study to do something that sounded really simple. Just don't think of white bears. What he found was that no matter what kind of students he tried this with, the task was virtually impossible. In fact, not only did all of the subjects confess to thinking about white bears, they actually thought about white bears more than those in another group who were told to think about white bears. And as an aside, Wegner found that the task was most difficult for people who were stressed, tired, or distracted. Wegner called this effect ironic rebound. The moment we try to push a thought away, it immediately boomerangs right back. The harder we push, the deeper it digs its heels in, and the more we cannot get it out of our head. Sound familiar? Another reason why we end up feeling like we're obsessing about food so much of the time is because we don't plan what we're going to eat ahead of time. This leaves us trying to make choices about what we're going to eat when we are hungry, stressed, and tired. In other words, as Wegner found in his study, when we're at our most vulnerable. And it makes what should be a simple decision feel far more complicated and require way more thought than it actually should. And finally, another reason that I see so many of my clients and students obsessing about what's right and wrong when it comes to food is that they don't trust their own bodies. There's a good reason they don't, and it has everything to do with dieting. Years of dieting haven't done much to help us control our weight and maintain weight loss, but they have done one thing really well, and that is to effectively train us to completely ignore and distrust our own bodies. Think about it. What does dieting teach you? If you're hungry, don't eat. If you're craving something, drink a glass of water. Or distract yourself, right? Clean out your cupboards. Whatever you do, don't trust your body. It is the enemy. So it's no wonder that now we become completely lost and overwhelmed when we have to make decisions about food. Obsessed by figuring out which foods we can have and which foods we can't have. Counting calories and points in an effort to do the right thing. It's exhausting. Okay, so I've told you a little bit about why it makes complete sense that you've become a little bit food obsessed. Now, let's talk about what you can do to break the habit and start building a relationship with food where you're not obsessing about what you should or shouldn't eat, but rather where you kind of just naturally gravitate towards the healthier choices without even really thinking about it. If this sounds absolutely amazing and so much better than how you're currently living, give that like button a click for me so that I know that we're on the right track. All right, my first suggestion is to stop restriction and food guilt. That's right. Start telling yourself that absolutely nothing is off limits. I know. This feels terrifying. You're obsessing about food as a way to try to keep yourself from eating the bad stuff. And here I am telling you to throw out the idea that there even is any bad stuff. But trust me when I say that even though this might sound counterintuitive, it's actually game-changing. Remember how I said earlier that one of the primary reasons that we end up obsessing about food is because we're trying so hard to avoid thinking about food? Remember that white bear study we talked about earlier? These studies show us that the more we try to resist something, the more impossible it becomes to resist. So, if we want to make food less all-consuming, we need to stop trying to resist it. We need to let go of this idea that some foods are good and other foods are bad, and some foods are right and others are wrong, and some we can have and some we can't. Because when we stop resisting, we stop obsessing. And that doesn't mean that we just eat anything and everything, but it means that instead of focusing on what we can and can't have, we focus on what will make our bodies feel the best. Which ties directly to my second suggestion, which is to plan your meals and snacks ahead of time. I know that many people would rather gouge their eyes out with a spoon than hear about meal planning one more time, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If you wait until you are hungry, stressed, and overwhelmed to start deciding what you're going to eat every day, you're going to find yourself feeling confused, overwhelmed, and obsessing about food. And that almost always ends up in us making choices that don't support our health goals. Instead, plan your meals and snacks out at least 24 hours in advance, if not longer, so that it requires almost no thought to decide what you're going to eat. You just follow the plan. And that brings me to my third and final suggestion, which is to start to practice trusting your body. So much of our obsessive thinking about food revolves around us trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. Should I eat this or should I eat that? Should I eat this much or should I eat less? Should I eat now or should I eat later? And the truth is that the only place to find the right answers to all of those questions is within your own body. Your body knows better than Weight Watchers, better than Dr. Oz, better than your sister-in-law, better than me, what you should be eating, how much, and when. The simple and easy answers are right there within you, but thanks to years and years of dieting, you've lost the ability to understand your body when it's talking to you, which means that you're always looking outside of yourself for someone or something to tell you how to eat. I want you to take back what dieting has stolen from you. I want you to start practicing listening to and trusting your own brilliant and beautiful body. How do you do that? Well, my absolute favorite tool for starting to reopen those lines of communication between your brain and your body is mindful eating. Eating more mindfully is something we can all do anywhere, anytime. It doesn't require any special equipment or training, and it's totally free. And best of all, it works. In fact, in all of my years of health and nutrition coaching, I've never seen anything that can transform people's relationship with food as quickly and effectively as eating more mindfully. When we practice mindful eating, we simply become more aware and present with the act of eating, right? We stop multitasking when we're eating, we slow down, we chew more, and we pay more attention to the subtle signals that our body is sending us about what we're eating and how much we should be eating. And the more you practice this way of eating, the better you get at being able to hear and understand what your body's telling you about food and hunger, what you should be eating and how much and when. And that will quickly translate into you feeling like you can trust your body to make healthy choices, which means you no longer need to obsess about what you will and won't eat. Sound good? So, just to recap, my 3 suggestions for how to end food obsession are: number 1, stop food restriction and guilt. Number 2, plan your meals and snacks ahead of time. And number 3, practice trusting your body. And the best way to practice trusting your body, start experimenting with mindful eating. Maybe just for one meal or just a snack each day. If you want some help with that, join my free 5-day mindful eating challenge. You will leave this fun little 5-day challenge with some really specific mindful eating techniques that you can put to work right away and start noticing big shifts in how you are feeling about food. You can use the link below to sign up for that challenge. I hope that you'll join us. It's so much fun. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a new video. I post new videos every week with simple tools that you can use to rewire your brain so that making the healthy choices starts to become your new normal.